So what I'll do now is clip this to a spring, and we will listen to this, try it with that, and attach here. Right? Okay, so what's happening now, if you want to come up and look at it, it's a little bit complex.
That's so cool.
It is wonderful. It's like playing through a screen.
Okay, so what's happening is, the sound is basically coming from this iPod, which I just brought because it's a light playback device and I came on a bus. I swear, otherwise I would have used something else. So the signal, the first loudspeaker is this little piezo disc. And I've simply clipped it to this long spring with an alligator clip. And then at the very end of the spring, I've got another kind of a contact mic, whose job it is to pick up the signal after it's spent its life running around on that spring. And if I touch the spring, right, I sort of ruin the effect. And then at the bottom of that, I feed that and derive this loudspeaker as sort of a conventional way. And this is the...
You could just use two of these, right? If you
I could use two of those if I wanted to.
Is that how the spring reverb works?
This is exactly how... Oh, hey, Tim. This is exactly how spring reverb works. Or more or less exactly how spring reverb works. So the average guitar amp that's got that spring reverb in it basically has something to drive a long spring and then something to pick up the vibration at the end of the long spring. So it's a kind of a mechanical reverb device. Simply because, excuse me, the sound can really bounce around in a spring the way it can't bounce around in something that's stiffer, because the spring is sort of wobbly, loosey-goosey, right? Likewise, we make spring reverbs out of like big sheets of metal and stuff like that.
You can do it with a cooking sheet or something.
You can do it with a cooking sheet. You make, instead of a spring reverb, you make what's called a plate reverb. But it's a totally sort of easy, fun, do-it-yourself project too. So that's kind of the sort of short version of contact microphones, microphones that hear very well through hard surfaces. But there are maybe at least, well, how are we doing for time?
It's been about 35 minutes.
Okay, that's good. So we can move sort of fairly quickly from microphones of the contact type to ones that are maybe a little bit more difficult to explain in their operation. And the commonest of those is a microphone that looks like this, which some of you might recognize as a what? Okay, a guitar pickup, right. So, wait, we want to listen. There you go. Okay, so the average guitar pickup, and this one's buzzing like a dog because it's a super cheap one, somehow has a very special role, and it seems like it's not an awful lot different than the way we use this thing as a guitar pickup, right? This is the sort of commonest task, is to be used as a guitar pickup. And if we have a guitar with nylon strings, yes. Okay, we'll see that it makes a really lousy guitar pickup for nylon strings. Right, I can hold it up to the... and that ain't no pickup at all. Right? This is some kind of a microphone, but we have to figure out what kind of a microphone it is. It doesn't amplify just anything, and does it touch your guitar strings when it amplifies them? No, they're just sort of near it, so maybe it's like your sort of typical air microphone. Will it pick up my voice if I shout into it? No, not really, right? And it doesn't really like nylon strings. Let's see if it amplifies something like horsehair really well. No, not really, right? There's something sort of magical about guitar strings, and what could that possibly be? Mr. Tamburo?
They're metal?
They're metal. They're not just metal, they're metal that contains iron.
Oh, iron.
It has to be iron-containing metal.
So it's a magnet, essentially.
It's, yeah, what's in a guitar pickup is basically a magnet that's wrapped with a coil of wire. Yeah?
Why is it buzzing? What's the...
Because, as you will see, it picks up all kinds of other crap in the world, too. It's not... I'll get to that in a second. But if we have something like this, which is sort of nearly a guitar string, it's actually another spring, I can hold it at a reasonable distance from the thing and it picks that up really, really well. Right? But only that kind of thing doesn't amplify plastic well. So what's happening is this is sort of a very similar principle to the way that the loudspeaker works, in as much as there is a thin coil of copper wire that surrounds a magnet. And anytime there's a disturbance of that magnetic field by an object that contains iron, hello, you're in trouble, don't come in here. Anytime there's an iron containing anything that passes over the surface, it's going to generate a change in the magnetic field. Here we do it very slowly. Can you hear that? It generates an electrical signal that we can amplify and hear as sound. But it has to be something metallic or iron containing, otherwise it doesn't work. It buzzes because it'll handle any change in the magnetic field as good enough for it, and that includes radio frequency signals that are scattered all throughout the atmosphere because everybody's putting all kinds of crap into the air now. Right? Let's see if this iPod makes some. There we go. Okay, so I can pick up the sound from the iPod that's generating. That's the hard drive. Right? So I'm not actually amplifying the iPod by conventional means.
Aren't magnets like bad for those type of things?
Huh?
Aren't magnets bad for iPods or something?
Yeah, you don't want to do it forever, but you can listen to the drive of your computer really well, all kinds of sort of stray radio frequency signals. You can also listen to the sort of hums of your transformers, because all of that stuff generates a huge amount of radiated radio frequency information that can be read by devices like this, right? And that's why you hear that in addition to that sort of pretty amplified guitar sound that everybody wants. Because there's a lot of other crap in the air that's also generating magnetic
So
fields.
if you had a massive one of those and you lived on top of a hill, you could like kind of like take over the world with that thing a little bit. You like listen to everyone's cell phone calls and stuff like that. Right?
Yeah, well that's basically what a radio does.
Same thing, yeah.
Yeah, it's just that you have to. The thing about radio frequency information is that it's all encoded and it has to be decoded. They're all operating at different frequencies, so you can't listen to everything at once because there's just too much of it. Huh?
Tune in. You have to tune.
You have to tune, that's right. You have to tune what you're receiving, otherwise you don't hear anything in particular, you just hear a whole lot of everything. Another kind of a magnetic microphone, you guys may not recognize this unless some of you are a little bit older, but it's a microphone that looks like this thingy here. Does anybody recognize this thingy here? Stand up!